Alright everybody, welcome back. Today we are going to be working on a Compaq portable. This is an 8088 machine with 128 kilobytes of RAM. Possibly, could have more. I haven't been into it to check. And what we're going to be doing is getting this machine fired up. I've had it for a while, but I finally have the time to take a look at it. And I've got some parts to put into it, so that's what we're going to be doing. First thing we need to do is flip it over and release the keyboard. Now I have been into the keyboard and the keyboard does not work. The design that Compaq used on this product, the keys actuate Mylar discs with a foam backing, and the foam has fallen apart, so I'm going to have to open it up and replace all of the foam and the Mylar. And so that's going to be a project for another day. But we'll get into this in a little while. So on the unit here we have a green screen monitor, two full height double density floppy drives. One of the things that we're going to be doing to this machine is installing a 20 megabyte hard card. The ISA machines, this one only has the shorter ISA slots, and so it won't take an IDE disk controller. But luckily I do have a new in the box hard card unit to put in here. So, turning it to the side, there we go. Power cord connection, power switch. So, close that. And then on this side is where we have the I/O card, the CGA video card, and a parallel port. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing connected to power, and we'll power it on and show you what it does. Be right back. Alright, we're back. We've got power connected to the unit. We don't have the keyboard, but we're not going to need it because we're not going to get very far, as I will show you. So we'll go ahead and switch on. And I don't know if you can see it, there's a cursor on the screen there. These old computers do take quite a while to boot up. There we go. And the machine doesn't boot up because we do not have a boot floppy for it. And I don't have any way to make one. So what we're going to do is we're going to be installing a hard card in this machine. And so I'm going to pause the video and get set up for that process. And then we'll show you what we're going to be doing here. Alright, we're back. And what I've got on the bench here is a Zeos 386 PC. Since we don't have a boot disk for the Compaq portable, we're going to install a hard card in this machine and boot it up and see if we can sys this drive and install DOS on it. And then we'll install it in the Compaq portable so that we can get to the point where we're ready to have that machine running, copy of DOS. So I'm going to go ahead and move some of the boards in this machine around to make the room that we need for the hard card. This is our VGA video card. And then, in this slot, this is the interesting one, we have an old 10 megabit Ethernet card. And we're not using it as a network card. What I've done is the ROM socket on the card, I've installed a ROM that contains the XT IDE software which takes control of the drive interrupt, allows you to use larger drives on old machines, so on and so forth. So, I'm going to go ahead and install this card back into the machine. There we go. And like I was talking about earlier, the hard card only has the shorter ISA socket, which is the main issue with not being able to use a more modern IDE controller, is that the old machines just don't have the 16-bit slots. They only have the 8-bit slot, which the 8088 is an 8-bit machine anyway. 8-bit internally and 8-bit interface bus. So that shouldn't matter. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get this installed. On a lot of machines, it's a tight fit to install the hard card, just because of the way that things were laid out on the boards. This is actually bending the connectors at the front of the motherboard that the wiring plugs into, but it's a short-term solution, so we shouldn't have to worry about it too much. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and screw that card down so it's not flapping around in the wind. Alright. Get our miscellaneous parts out of the way. And as you can see, this hard card was brand new in the box. Not even sure when it was manufactured, but many years ago. Warranty card, installation manual, and they specifically call out the compact portable in the installation manual, so it should be compatible. Let's go ahead and stickers. Get our 386 computer plugged in, and we're going to bring out our small monitor. I need to refinish the case for this. That's why it's open frame at the moment. Alright, let's go ahead and get a keyboard. Hook up the internal IDE drive. AT keyboard. Since this is a 386. Alright. Okay, our monitor is on. Give it a second to warm up. Let's start our PC. Go. Okay, so our XT IDE Universal BIOS is seeing both. It's seeing the foreign hard disk capacity 20.3 megabytes and the internal hard drive, the IDE hard drive, which is a 400 megabyte hard drive. So we're going to boot the 400 meg hard drive. Even being a 386, it's a slow machine. Alright, so let's do an F disk and change the current fixed disk drive. We're going to set for disk 2. We're going to display our partition information. We have a primary DOS partition, 20 megabytes. I wonder what's on it. Let's take a look. Nothing. Okay. Let's sys the D drive to make it bootable. System is transferred. Let's go to F disk, change the drive to set active partition. Only partitions on drive 1 can be made active. Well, that may be interesting then. We'll have to see what we need to do to get around that. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to our D drive. We're going to make a DOS directory. Let's do a directory. We have a command com file. Okay. We'll copy everything in the DOS directory on the C drive to the DOS directory on the D drive. While that's working away, I'm going to get a drink here. What I do have here is DOS 6.22 on floppy disk. And so what I will do is hook up the floppy drive in this computer, hope it's still working, and boot with just the hard card, and then I will set the partition on the hard card to active, or at least that's what I'm going to try to do. Barring that, I'm going to have to dig around and see if I have some 5 1/4 inch floppy drives in storage, and see if I can make one of those bootable so that we could follow that process. Alright, so ...128 files in our DOS directory on our C drive. We're running version 6.22, so let's go to our D drive, into our DOS directory, do a directory listing there, and we have the same number of files. Okay, so let's go ahead and shut this computer off. Great. All right, I'm going to disconnect our power. Set our keyboard out of the way, and we're going to, I'm going to pause the video here so that I can do some reconfiguration on this machine and get the floppy drive working, so I'll be back with you shortly. Alright, we're back. I've hooked up the floppy drive. I have the DOS disk number 1 from the 3 disk set in there, and we're booting the machine now. So let's see if we detected the floppy disk. I heard it seek. Alright, and now we have an option for floppy disk in our XT IDE Universal BIOS. So let's see if we can boot off of that. Boot sectors found. starting DOS. Okay, so we're on the setup screen for DOS. We're going to go ahead and exit. Okay. Alright. Okay, so our C drive did show up as the hard card. So, let's go back to our A drive and run F disk. Okay, 2 for set active. The only startable partition on drive 1 is already set active. Okay, so we're good there. So that being the case, let's go ahead and shut the machine down. I'm going to take our floppy disk out of the drive. Let's go ahead and start back up. This 386 does have 4 megs of RAM. That was kind of odd for 386s, but apparently this was a higher end 386. Alright, so we're going to tell it to boot off of the 20 meg hard drive. Boot sectors found, starting MS-DOS. Okay, current date and time. Date's correct. Time's correct. We're in. Very good. Okay, so what we need to do now is shut this computer down and transplant this card, the hard card, into the compact portable. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, disconnect. Okay. Set that off to the side. We will finish reassembling this machine in a little while. Alright. Let's go ahead and take our hard card out. We have disconnected power to the computer. I used to work in a computer repair store decades ago, and we had somebody that fried their computer because they were trying to install a 14.4 kilobit modem with the machine on, which is not a good idea. It will scorch things and make the computer not run anymore. These older cases are always fun because a lot of times they have catches on them that things have to line up properly. There we go. We're just going to set that out of the way for now. And we're going to bring our compact portable back. Let's go ahead and move this monitor out of the way. Alright, so on the compact portable, people do have issues getting them open. What you need to do is on the top side of the machine, when it's sitting flat, there's a panel, and what you need to do is you have to hit and slide the panel at the same time. So like this. And it should just pop loose, and then you will have access to the machine. You'll need to loosen some screws to get this cover plate off, which I've already done that. And then, let's see, where did it go? I have a plastic piece that needs to go on here. I'll have to find that in a moment. But anyways, we can go ahead and move the process along. So what we've done, this machine had a modem in it, and we're just not going to need to use a modem. So I've removed the modem, full-length card, and I'm going to install this full-length card, which is the hard card. So on these full-length card machines, you have to line it up into the rail in the back, and then make sure the fingers of the card are going into the slot. What I did is I did not pull the screw all the way out for the card slot because it's difficult to get it back in there. So I'll go ahead and screw this card down. Alright, there we go. Let's see here. There's the plastic piece that I needed. So in the instructions on this hard card, it says specifically for the compact portable that what you need to do is remove one of the card retainers and install the supplied card retainer. Now it is marked front. You want to make sure that goes towards the front of this card cage cover. And it's difficult to get in there. Of course, this is some fairly old plastic by now, so it's not cooperating. There we go. And what that's going to do for us is that will do a better job of holding that card down than the factory bracket. Very good. So we're just going to reinstall our screws. Shouldn't have to change any jumper settings, dip switch, any of that stuff. This was really a plug-and-play solution for that era, which was rare. Almost nothing was plug-and-play back then. All right. So that's installed. Let's go ahead and reinstall our cover. There we go. That's secure. So let's turn the machine around. Open the side panel and get power plugged into it. Very good. And it looks like I've already switched the machine on. Let me zoom in here. Let's see if we can get this thing to at least come to a prompt and ask us for time and date. Sorry. Okay, we're getting a 301 error. I'll have to look up what that is. You can hear the disk running. The internal hard card. Okay, starting MS-DOS. And we're at a time date prompt. So we now have a hard drive in this machine. The point of setting this machine up in my case, one, I do like vintage PCs. The other thing is that shortly we're going to be working on older two-way radio equipment that amateur radio operators like to use, Motorola's, Midlands, General Electrics, and the software to program those radios is very timing sensitive, and it was written during this era. And so faster machines can cause you to brick your radio. So we need to get a few older computers going so that we have the ability to run the software and correctly program the radios. That will get us the ability to not destroy things. So the next step is going to be working on the keyboard for this machine. And let's see if I can get it back apart. I'll show you the issue that we're going to be dealing with. There's a manufacture date, October 2nd, 1985. So, let me move that back out. Alright, so here is the key switch assembly, and what we have, let me see if I can get this in frame here. There we go. There are Mylar discs that are pressed by the keys, and there are foam discs underneath the Mylar. The Mylar and the foam have both degenerated to the point where you basically get no key switch response. On the keyboard, we could wire up another keyboard from that era, but I'd like to have the original factory keyboard working properly. So what we're going to do is have to track down some foam and some pieces of Mylar and rebuild all of the key switch assemblies for this keyboard. And then we'll have a keyboard that works like it did from the factory. And I'd also like to see if at some point I can get a 3.5 floppy in here, or a floppy emulator of some kind. I'd also like to see if possibly we could, instead of having the hard card, or in addition to the hard card, we could have a CF card of 1 gigabytes, 2 gigabytes, something along those lines, so that we can store more software. But that's further down the road. So I'm going to go ahead and get this video together, get it posted. This will be part 1, and we'll be working on part 2 soon. Thanks for watching, everybody, and thank you for subscribing. If you like this video, go ahead and hit like. Share it with people you know that might be interested in vintage computers, amateur radio equipment, test equipment repair, anything along those lines. We're going to be producing more videos. I've been on vacation for the last couple of weeks, so I haven't posted anything recently, but we're getting back to it. So let people know, and I do thank you for your viewership. Have a great day.